senator in New York who wants everyone on the roster before they perform to be drug tested. What's Vince's takeaway on that?
Well, it's probably stimulated by the constant ramblings and ranting of Phil Mushnick in the New York Post.
Right.
And he created an awareness of what he perceived to be a faulty drug program in WWE because he didn't like wrestling. He thought it was beneath him. He thought the people that were fans of wrestling were, just the scum of the earth, bottom feeders. And we all know that's not true. So he was an elitist. And the other thing, you really didn't think it was going to get too far because much like today's politics, Conrad, these son of a bitches can't even balance their checkbook. They ain't got a clue how to balance a budget. And it's all about the politics of things. So this guy, all he was going to do is get some publicity, and he did. But I never thought it was going to go that far. The cost of doing it, of course, that's another thing about our politicians. They're worried about costs. They just write it up. We'll figure something out. And can you, no, I'm not going to the Trump thing, but another way, anyway, it was a concern, not because we're trying to hide anything. It just became cumbersome. It was expensive for the state to do. It just didn't make a lot of common sense. Should we have had drug testing? Absolutely. You want to make sure and that's primarily for health. For the, to check, make sure guys don't have any lingering issues that go undetected. But it wasn't a serious threat, and I think it was politically motivated. The senator was trying to get himself over, and it didn't work.
And now, an excerpt from the audiobook version of Under the Black Hat by Jim Ross, available now.
Vince was always opinionated, animated, and sometimes sharp in my headset. But rarely was he so aggressive in his producing of my work. He wanted SmackDown to be perfect from day one, and he was putting that pressure squarely on me. King gave me his favorite son smile. Jerry never got notes from Vince, not one effing time. Kevin Dunn chimed back in. 5, 4, 3. This is a whole new audience, JR. God damn it, Vince shouted. Talk to them. Tell them who we are. King's smile turned into a chuckle as he heard what a shitty night I was having. Jerry did not like drama, and Vince knew that. The King didn't have the mindset to deal with long-term tension. If Vince wanted the best performance from Jerry Lawler, he knew not to confront him. So I got it instead. You got it? Vince asked. Yep. I replied to the boss. I got it. And now we're back live. New set, new colors, new opening, new channel, same announce team. I think that's what was bothering Vince so much. I was finding out live on the air that we were not ready.
Under the Black Hat, the audiobook, and all formats are available at jrsbbq.com and wherever books are sold. Get yours today at jrsbbq.com.
Russell would also write, Shawn Michaels is expected to return to his old commissioner role sometime around the middle of the month. Jim Ross teased it in an internet report, and Michaels wrote back that he'd be glad to be back, but nobody from the company had told him he would be back or given him a date. Shawn did commentary on Raw a few times in the summer of 98. Since you were on a call with him during those shows, how do you think he did?
Oh, good. He's a good communicator. Shawn was going through so many life changes during that era, getting his life back together, or trying to, divorces, same shit the guys go through, divorces, substance abuse, injury, pain management, all these things that can be problematic, obviously. Shawn has a great feel for the business by and large. When he's Shawn Michaels, the character, anytime you've seen him on TV lately, when he's done a promo, when he's in the Shawn Michaels mode, he's still as good as he used to be. When he tries to be something else, that personality doesn't resonate as brightly as the Shawn Michaels HBK persona. Michael Higginbotham is a little bit lower key. So he did fine. It was just we're trying to find a role. I think that's why he had got a call. Creative. He had a role in creative, and quite honestly, it's like I talked to Vince about. Vince, he's your guy. He loves you. You love him because you say he reminds you of you when you were young, defiant and attitudinal. I said I can get all the pieces together, but at the end of the day, you got to stretch those arms out and say, "Come on home." And that's going to make it work. So it ended up, that's kind of what we did.
Let's get to Backlash. Our opening match here on the pay-per-view, Edge and Christian are going to retain the WWF Tag Team titles, beating X-Pac and Road Dogg. 9 minutes, 23 seconds. Meltzer would call it a strong opener, and he gave it 3 stars. And he would also note, although it wasn't noticeable, X-Pac in particular got tired early due to asthma and called for the finish several minutes beforehand, which may have explained the finish happening so quickly. I got to tell you, I love Edge and Christian, and I didn't remember much of X-Pac and Road Dogg as a tag team, but I thought this worked. What'd you think?
Yeah, they're very underrated. X-Pac and Road Dogg, I thought they're two pros, been through the territory system, worked for a lot of different promoters and bookers, and they're both students of the game. Road Dogg from that great Armstrong family that wrestling was their life and still is by and large. But they were very underrated, I thought. But this is a match that was the reason for this match was to help build Edge and Christian. They needed some quality wins. They needed some positive exposure. They needed to be able to have the opportunity to maximize their minutes, and working with X-Pac and Road Dogg really helped them in that regard. I thought it was a real good opener. I thought it set the tone for energy and excitement for the rest of the night. And I'm glad it went under 10 minutes. I'm not glad X-Pac had issues with his asthma, of course, but this show had, as we said earlier, some matches had a propensity to go a little bit longer than they actually needed to go, which we'll get into. I got a couple in mind. But I thought those guys had a great opener, and it just goes to show you that the role of the opening match on a pay-per-view is crucial. It is very, very important to book and score with a good, solid opening match booking. It's not like the old days of the territories where the opening match is a 10-minute draw. It's just, you blew that concept all to hell. You got to have that great opener, and these guys delivered. They really did. All 4 really, really good talents and high skill sets, which you just love.
X-Pac's going to need some stitches when it's all over. At one point, Christian hits him with the ring bell, and the bolt on the bell cuts him open hard way. So, rough night for X-Pac, but still a great opening match, 3 stars, but not as good as the next match, which on paper, I got to tell you, I was like, what to expect here. It's Dean Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty. It's for the WWF light heavyweight title, which was never really a prominently featured belt on WWE programming. Meltzer would say it was a fast-paced, excellent match, and Malenko was and this is real, the unnoticed in-ring star of the show. And I think you could go back and watch this and say, might be actually one of Dean Malenko's best matches in the company. He gets 4 stars here. They get plenty of time to tell the story. 12 minutes, 59 seconds. I think Dean Malenko has been criminally underrated. I felt like he was a big star, in the cruiserweight division for WCW, but for whatever reason, it felt like it never really clicked in the WWF. Did Vince just not get Dean? Were the writers, did they not think that he had the quote unquote acting chops for their type of ha-ha? Or why do you think Dean didn't get a more featured role in the company?
Because he's 5'8", Conrad, and no overload. He didn't have an overload of external charisma. 5'8", 5'7", and even though when you know Dean Malenko, when you talk to Dean, he's one of the most glib, entertaining guys that I've ever met in wrestling.
Absolutely.
He has amazing personality. But if you don't try to get to know somebody, if you don't make the attempt as a writing staff to get to know the talents on a one-on-one basis so you can actually see how they truly are and then establish who they truly are and then build on that, that's what you're going to get. Dean is an amazingly important team member in AEW. He's one of the coaches. And those kids soak up his knowledge, which he has a wealth of, very easily. I can't believe that guys like him and Finley had left WWE in the last, because guys like that kind of experience and knowledge are irreplaceable. You can't go, well, let's go get a young guy. You get a young guy, go get a goddamn teenager. Get somebody that's got their learner's permit. I don't give a shit. they're not going to bring the cachet that a guy like Malenko does to the equation. And the other thing, let's not forget, Scotty Too Hottie, Scott Garland, another guy very underrated. Hell of a good hand, man. And he's solid. And those guys told a logical story. And if it wasn't the very best match on the card, it certainly was the most out of nowhere hit that we booked on that card the entire night. It just, like you said, Conrad, didn't have high expectations going in, which may have added to its popularity because all of a sudden, hey, this is good, man. These guys are really good. So it's just the cruiserweight thing was not, or the whatever light heavyweight, it just was never given the respect because, again, size matters in WWE in that era in more ways than one.
Let me mention, this gets the highest rating, star rating from Meltzer on this entire show. And if you're a fan of meat and taters wrestling, this is about as good as you're going to get here. 4 stars, really a great match for an underrated performer and maybe even a forgotten belt. The WWF Light Heavyweight title nearly had the cachet that the WCW Cruiserweight title does, but this shows you what these guys are capable of. And Scotty Too Hottie, who's certainly over, you know him more of a comedic persona, but this is a really good match. I can't recommend it enough. The next one, well, it's a little different. It's Boss Man and Bull Buchanan. They get a win over the Acolytes in 7 minutes and 41 seconds. It's a fast paced match. It's super stiff, but the previous 2 matches, as far as the traditional wrestling, I think is not as good. But if you're into the big guys, this has got everything you need. Star and 3/4. The finish comes when we see Boss Man hit Buchanan with the nightstick, and Bull does a famouser off the top rope on Bradshaw for the pin. What'd you think of this one?
Oh, that's your answer. What's that little thing? It's MEH. Meh. It was hard work, physical, but when you got 2 teams in there like that, you know, I don't know that their specialties was brawling. And to me, that would have been an all crazy brawl from the get go, and it would have been over sooner than later. I just didn't feel that the story going into the match was strong. Then that ends up not being fair to the talents. They made the best of what they could with it, but the match did not have advanced fanfare. We talked about that earlier. You got to have something that's got a build to it. And this had if it had a build, it was very short and very tepid. Effort was great. The styles kind of clashed to me. And I was not a big fan of the match.
Let's mention before this match, there was a meeting of the minds backstage with Vince making sure that the Stooges are with him. Of course, we're talking about Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson. Also in the room, of course, Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane McMahon. After this Acolyte match, the Hardy Boys are shown talking about their upcoming hardcore title match, and they have an understanding about how they're going to compete for the title in this match. And then we see that Crash Holly, who is the champ, is talking to his cousin Hardcore Holly. And Hardcore says he'll go after his cousin and slaps him. And the announcers are starting to talk about how Steve Austin has not yet arrived to the building. And the entire show is you saying something like, Steve Austin is set to arrive anytime. But he's still, so this feels a little bit like a TV show where, you know, we're teasing a thread that, hey, stay tuned, folks. Taz could be, not Taz, but Stone Cold should be here any segment now. And it's a pay-per-view instead. What's the thinking in the tease of he could be here anytime on a pay-per-view?
Smart broadcasting, Conrad. What are you going to kayfabe Austin coming or not coming? And why haven't we seen him yet? Is he here? Is there a backstage? Why haven't I heard or seen from Austin? And plus that's what the old man wanted.
Right.
Continue to keep Steve's name alive, build the anticipation for Steve's arrival. We knew he was there, for God's sakes. Saw him at catering earlier today, having his 18th cup of coffee. Seriously, that's all it was. This advanced promotion. And to the critics' credit, you know, I probably oversold that. I probably could have mentioned it less, but you know, that was my charge. That was my direction. So I did it. But so knowing me sometimes, being the extremist that I am, you know, if one piece of chocolate cake, Conrad, you know what I'm saying, is good, then that second piece of chocolate